Let's talk about insurance, because the insurance market, Lloyds of London, says it's returned to profit in the first half of this year after making an annual loss in 2017, brought on by a record year for natural disasters. It made profits of just under $800 million in the 3 months to June. Lloyds also said it's working to secure access to the EU market after Brexit, having opened a subsidiary in Brussels for the first time. Well, with me now is Inga Beale, the Chief Executive of Lloyds of London. It is your last set of results at the company before you step down in October, about a month's time. Let's first talk about the numbers, this return to profit, and it seems to be largely through cost cutting, but there's no accounting, of course, for catastrophes.
Yes, well, Lloyds of London, been around for 300 years and always been there when these disasters strike, and of course that's what Lloyds is really renowned for. So even the bad times of 2017 in a way was somewhat expected. But this year, first half of this year, there haven't been many major losses at all. But now, of course, we're seeing a few losses around the place. We've got Florence, we've got Hurricane Florence hitting the US, we've had hurricanes over Hawaii, we've had typhoons in Asia. Here in the UK, we've even got, buffeting winds. So you never know what's going to happen. But Lloyds has always been good at assessing the, how to build in something into the pricing for these catastrophes. It's too early to tell what impact therefore the current loss is going to have, but the first half year, very benign, very few losses around, hence we've returned to profit.
Yes, I mean, you say sort of small costs perhaps coming in with storms and hurricanes, but the US accounts for about 40% of the market's business. Florence is no small fish.
It isn't, but current estimates from an overall loss perspective, they vary. And we've been spending a lot of money on trying to model disasters and understand how they pan out. But still, we've got a huge range of between $5 to $20 billion for the overall loss. Now, Lloyds will have a share of that only. I mean, we play on the global market, obviously, and the US is a big part of what Lloyds does. But we'll only have a percentage of that overall loss. Too early to tell, though, what the actual impact will be.
OK. Now, in March last year, you said you aim to have a new Brussels office up and running by the middle of this year. You have done so. What do you make of the Brexit talks as they currently stand?
Well, it just trundles on, doesn't it? And I'm sure that there are many of us just thinking, gosh, when is this going to end? Because I think we're all getting just a bit bored of there's all this positioning going on and jostling and things. Tough negotiation, and I'm so glad I'm not in that. But of course,
do you feel sorry for her, for Theresa May?
Anyone who wants to take that role on, I'm sure, doesn't need anyone's pity. I mean, you take a role on like that, you've got to have the courage and the confidence to go ahead and take on the role of leading the country. So
do you think she has that?
She has that. I think she's got enormous resilience. I mean, we can see that time and time again. She just knows what she's trying to get after. And it's like any good leader, you've got to have your eye on the future, and you have to keep going without being too distracted about all the noise that goes on around you.
But she doesn't seem to have a huge amount of backing. I mean, the EU leaders sort of turned their back on her, in fact, in Salzburg.
There's all of this, I said, positioning, and I think that's what's going on. But I mean, I'm not a politician, wouldn't want to. I like to focus on the business side. And of course, what's happened, because we can't get to this agreement at, the government level, state level, businesses are taking their own future into their own hands. And this is what most of the financial services businesses are doing. And that's why Lloyds, we've made our decision to go ahead with our Brussels subsidiary. And many of the businesses are doing that because we can't live with this uncertainty of what the final negotiation will be.
So 6 months to go until Brexit. I mean, what is your assessment of the risks at this stage?
There are still significant risks. There is a lot of uncertainty out there. We, not just about, I mean, things like the Irish border don't particularly affect financial services, but if there's difficulty to trade between the UK and the EU, obviously that can have an impact then on the economy and then the ongoing insurance needs of anyone. And of course, what we're also seeing, though, is around the world some uncertainty around what's going to happen with trade globally. And we just sense that there's more and more of this protectionism going on. things wanting to be kept within boundaries, state boundaries. And this really impacts financial services, because financial services is all about operating on a global stage. And for a market like Lloyd's, which is truly, truly global, we need to be able to diversify our business all around the world. So anything that hinders that ability, so this protectionist attitude, regulation to limit who can operate in a market, that's a really tough call for any financial services business.
Do you think businesses have already placed their bets in that case? You know, they're your clients.
Yes, so a lot of them are, and of course the regulators are also demanding it. We're operating in a highly regulated sector, so the regulators are making sure that every business, particularly as it relates to Brexit, has got their own contingency plan, and some of them are insisting that you've actually started to implement those plans.
Let's park the numbers for a moment if we can. You're leaving Lloyd's after 5 years. Culturally, is insurance, do you think, a very different industry to the one that you essentially took over 5 years ago, or not?
Well,
it doesn't have a great reputation.
It's certainly changed a lot since I started. So I've worked in insurance for actually 36 and a half years now. And I started in the London market right next to Lloyds of London, and it was a very, very different place then. It certainly has changed, and in the 5 years at Lloyd's, one of the things I've tried to do is really modernise the place. If you think that the first female, in terms of being able to actually enter Lloyd's and trade, so do business in Lloyd's, that only happened in 1973. So that's relatively recent in Lloyd's history. So we've got some catching up to do, and that's what we've been trying to do, to make sure that we're much more attractive to diverse people, whether it's, whatever your diversity is, whether you're from a different ethnic background, whether you're a woman, whether you've got some cultural differences, whether you've got social differences and things like that. That's what we've been working on. And this month we'll be holding our 4th celebration of diversity and inclusion for insurance. It's called Dive In. It's a festival this year. In its 4th year, we're having events across the world, over 50 cities in 27 countries in just 4 years.
And very briefly, if we can, what next for Inga Beale?
Too early to tell. Too busy at the moment, doing my day job. Got a few more commitments before I hand over the reins, and then I'll be able to focus on me.
Well, best of luck. Enjoy the next month. Inga Beale, thank you very much.
Thank you.